The Unplayable Podcast is proudly presented by Qantas, the official podcast partner and the official airline partner of Cricket Australia. Once again this season, Qantas is proud to be flying Australia's cricketers as they take on the world. Hello everybody, welcome to the Unplayable Podcast. We're catching our breath after a manic day of Test cricket. 20 wickets fell. Both teams had a good bat, well, a short bat, and then they were all out. It's the fourth Test. Australia hold a 46-run lead, and they're starting their second innings on the start of day two. My name's Josh Schonafinger. Louis Cameron's with me. All a bit of a rush at the end of the day today, given how many wickets fell. So where do we begin dissecting this one?
Yeah, well, almost it feels like we're back to the first day of the series, right, where we had a similarly kind of frantic moment where you're trying to process, what you think after so many wickets fell in a day. We had 19 on day one of this series in Perth. We had 20 today. It would have been 21 if Jacob Bethel had hung on to a low one-hander in the last over of the day. It was weird. Someone came over to us, Josh, and asked the question, is the crowd happy with what they've seen today? And I think they are. They saw entertaining cricket. At no point was it dull, but it did kind of feel like we were robbed of the opportunity to watch some good batting as well as some good bowling.
Definitely. And, well, I guess that's because the pitch was doing plenty, wasn't it? We heard that the curator had left 10 millimetres of grass on this pitch, which wasn't unusual for this sort of wicket, but there was plenty of movement early, and Michael Nisa said, especially with that new ball, if you got it in the right spots, it was going to do plenty. So tough work for the batters. Only a couple of guys got out of double figures. In fact, there were 11 players who were dismissed in single figures across the two innings. Harry Brook was the top scorer for the whole day with 41, and Michael Nisa with 35 for Australia. So not much to look at on the batting card.
It was crazy, yeah. I mean, it felt a bit like a Sheffield Shield pitch, in all honesty. Like, these are the kind of wickets that you get a lot in domestic cricket where teams push for results and teams have to bat aggressively to score runs, and it can flatten out after you get through a tough first day. One of the interesting bits I heard from Alyssa Healy, she said she was out in the middle before play. She said she kind of ran her hand over the pitch and she could feel the grass kind of lifting up with her hand, which I thought was really telling, because from afar you looked at it and it had a nice kind of brownish colour from, obviously tinges of green, but it wasn't like a green mat that you kind of saw for the Gabba test a couple of years ago against South Africa. That just looked green and grassy the whole way through. This one kind of gave the appearance of, potentially, just being a good fair wicket, do a bit day one, flatten out by the end of day one, and you're on for some good cricket. Remember the last test we had here against India, went to the fifth day and was pretty balanced, did a bit early. Sam Qantas was ramping Bumrah, but it did again feel a bit like that when Harry Brook was playing like a man possessed. But I mean, I think England have, some of England's batters have basically looked at this Australian bowling attack and gone, well, these guys are not missing their lengths. And they probably thought, well, we played on 3 flatter wickets than them and we couldn't really, what their high score of the series was in the low 300s. We just have to try something differently, and I think Brook kind of embodied that today.
A question we don't notice, are we heading for another 2-day finish here, do you think, or will we get into a third for this one? Because it's shaping up a very similar situation to Perth.
Yeah, well, Michael Nisa, who was sitting right where we're sitting a few moments ago, we're again in the press conference room, which is an interesting spot at the MCG because you're between the two dressing rooms. So we're hearing a bit of applause from the England dressing room. So I'm not sure what all that's about, given they probably don't have a whole heap to
maybe it's a fines meeting or something like that.
Yeah, possibly. What was the question again?
A 2-day test.
Oh, 2-day test, yeah. Michael Nisa was sitting here and got asked a good question about whether there were divots in the pitch, right? Because this can be the danger. You leave too much juice in it day one, you kind of get little indentations on the wicket. When that pitch kind of hardens up under a baking sun, good luck, because it gets even harder to bat because the pitch gets quicker. And then it's not an even surface. He didn't seem to think so. I don't think it was a juicy wicket. I think it was just a grassy wicket. And then just some of the balls that we saw were just jagging a mile. We can go into some detail on that, but 2 days. I mean, it could, especially if it does quicken up. And Australia kind of get off to if England takes some early wickets tomorrow, then it's game on.
Definitely.
England chasing a small total in the last innings. Who knows what could happen? Yeah, absolutely could. If I was holding tickets for day 3 of this test, let alone day 4, I'd be pretty nervous.
Yeah, apologies to my parents who got in late with their ticket requests for this test match and could only get them day 4. So not looking great for their hopes of seeing some
I've got
live
family
cricket.
members in the exact same boat.
So good luck to them. Let's go back to 5:48 this afternoon, Louis. 2 minutes.
Which team? There aren't many days where you could say, let's go back to 5:48. Well, who? Either team could
Well,
be
I was actually
5:48.
talking about the clock, 5:48 p.m.
Yes.
So England have taken have lost their last wicket, which means we've only got 2 minutes left of batting to come. And this is my Liquorland cheers to that moment, in fact, because we didn't know which Aussie opener would come out for that one over to face. We were thinking, do they keep Travis Head in the sheds or do they go with a night watchman? As it turned out, we saw Scott Boland walk up the race, and there probably were still 70,000 fans in the G at that time. To raucous applause. He had to face all 6 balls. He was nearly caught it slip, and then he got a 4 away off the final ball. It was a great theatre at the end of the day. Not that we needed any more, but it was a great way to finish.
Steve Waugh, eat your heart out. Final day or a final over. Final ball boundary from Scott Boland. This wasn't quite as elegant a stroke as what Waugh managed off Richard Dawson.
Yeah, I think that's good.
All those years ago. That was 02-03 Ashes, I think. But yeah, he'd been given a life, having edged that one, and he was just hanging on for dear life, Scotty. But that was, I felt like, the loudest roar of the day. It was, of all things, a guy he nearly faced out a maiden if it wasn't for that nick. Just a really nice moment. It's an interesting one from the night watchman's perspective, because you made the good observation that when England went to 7 down, I think that was a wicket of Ben Stokes or Will Jacks potentially.
Yep.
We saw Jake Weatherald on the pitch. Australia celebrated the wicket, and he was shadow batting, so he was clearly expecting to bat. But then they've got back to the change rooms after Green gets that final wicket, and obviously Jake's probably asked for a night watchman. I guess Travis has probably said, I'll go out, but, I'll just stand at the non-striker's end. It would have been interesting. It would be interesting to find out exactly how that little bit played out.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess from Head's point of view, he can come out because with only 1 over remaining, if a wicket falls, that's stumps.
That's right.
So he's not going to take a single if Boland hits it into the gap. He's going to say no and just start at the non-striker's end. So low risk there for Head. And I guess that explains to some of the fans who would have been watching why he was the one, and not necessarily risked because he was at the non-striker's end.
Am I right in thinking we've now had 5 different Australian openers in this series? We had Weatherald, Head, Khawaja did it 1 innings in Perth, Labuschagne did it 1 innings in Perth.
I don't think we had Khawaja in Perth.
Yeah. Oh, no, you're right. He didn't, did it? So of all the, because it's remarkable, that whole thing about who's going to partner Uzi in Perth in the first test, and then they've had 4 or 5 different openers, and so we've had Head, Weatherald, Labuschagne for 1 innings, and now Boland. So it's only 4, and none of them have been Usman Khawaja.
That's right. Pretty remarkable stuff. So let's go back to the start of play. Ben Stokes won the toss, chose to bowl. England had 3 wickets in the first hour. We were saying in the press box we didn't think they'd bowled super well, but they certainly got their lines and lengths right in the second session, especially Josh Tongue. Magnificent wicket to get rid of Steve Smith with a full ball that did a lot. In fact, he was the pick of their bowlers today with 5 for, and finished off the innings with 2 in 2 as well. So when he hit his stride, he was close to unplayable on this pitch.
Yeah, I thought England's opening bowlers, especially the first 4 or 5 overs, were awful. Bryden Cast in particular. Lots of balls on the thigh pad, lots of balls down leg side. Questionable tactics in terms of Cast trying to bowl beautiful in-swingers back into the left-hander on a pitch that is going to be doing everything. Just stand the seam up, wobble seam, whatever you can do to just bash a length, and eventually they got there. Atkinson warmed into it in the back half of that first spell, and then Tongue really came on and showed him how to bowl. So he gets that early bit of luck with strangling Jake Weatherall down the leg side, but then the lengths he hit to get Marnus Labuschagne and Steve Smith out, perfect full length deliveries, probably both around the 4-5 metre mark away from the batter. He gets one that just nips away from Marnus Labuschagne. He pushes too hard. He's caught behind, and then to Steve Smith, it jags the other way, comes back in off the seam, bowls him for 9 off 31. Interesting stat that was on the Fox broadcast at the time. That ball nipped back, I think, 11 centimetres by the time from a 4 metre length. That's a lot of seam movement. So it was 11 centimetres by the time it passed Smith's bat. By the time it hit the stumps, hit middle stump, just about halfway up, it had deviated 14 centimetres away from where it would have gone without deviation. I always kind of look at that as a pretty good indication, because when you watch those replays and they show the without deviation, it's always the purple line, and it's always going through the middle of the bat of whoever was swinging the bat. So that's impossible to play.
Yeah, Tung didn't play the first 2 tests of this series, but he's come in and made an instant impact. And now he's probably also going to be saying to Ben Stokes, look, give me the new ball as well, because Brian Cast was very ineffective with it today, and Tung has shown that he can pitch it up, get it in the right spots, and even move the ball around. So there's definitely going to be that conversation as well. We will give Cast a little bit of credit, though, because he did execute an excellent run out today of Cameron Green that sort of sparked a mini collapse for Australia. They lost their last 4 wickets for 9 runs after that, and there was a good piece of athleticism from the big fella.
Another puzzling decision for Cameron Green while Bryden Cast was bowling, right? So we had the one at the Gabba when he was on 40 off just about as many balls, backs away, tries to hit him through the offside, gets bowled. Well, here he'd done really well with Michael Neser to kind of get Australia back on track, and it looked like they were probably going for something at least with a 2 in front of it, a 200 score. And he's on the back foot, so he's camped right back, and then he kind of looks to Neser for a bit of guidance on, is this a run, quick single that we can take? I wouldn't blame Neser in that situation. Neser, he's looking at Neser to think, well, can you make it at your end? It's on Green to think whether he can make it from his end. And he would have had to set off absolutely straight away, given the weight was all the way on his back shoe. But yeah, credit to Cast, pick up and throw and hit the non-strikers end stumps. You can see why they like Bryden Cast. Like, he's an athletic bowler who bowls wicket-taking deliveries, who's a good batter and a good fielder. But you just feel like they haven't quite read the conditions right. And in the scheme of things, Australia only made 152. He's gone for 42 off his 12 overs. It doesn't look terrible, but just the way Australia bowled was just absolutely relentless. None of those guys gave him an inch, and I think that selection could really come back to haunt them. A guy like, I'm not saying that he's a world beater and he would have changed the series for him, but a guy like Matthew Potts, it really surprises me that we haven't seen him before in this series, let alone on this pitch that's tailor-made for a guy who, from what I've seen in Test cricket, he nibbles the ball around at about 130, low 130 kilometres per hour. That's what this pitch is perfect for. That's why Michael Neser was the best bowler today on it. Scott Boland probably, and Josh Tung, not far behind him, but they needed those kind of guys. Atkinson's also that guy, slightly quicker, but just hits a good length. He got into his work, and he wasn't perfect, but you just feel like, even though they've rolled Australia for 152, like the amount of seed movement that the bowlers were getting, that might have been slight overs.
Well, as you said, Australia got 152, and when Mitch Starc was out there, it looked like he didn't want to be batting at any time at all. He wanted to be bowling, and for good reason, because after he was out for 1 off 6, Australia got the new ball in their hands and had England in all sorts very early. They were 4 for 16 after 8 overs. The wickets went Starc, Neser to get things underway. And either side of the tea break, so at the end of the Australian innings and the start of the England innings, both sides lost 8 for 25 in 67 balls. Total carnage. We were on the live blog trying to keep up.
Collectively, they've lost 8 for 67.
That's right, collectively. So the combined scores. We were trying to keep up with the updates on the live blog and trying to describe all these wickets and add in the videos and all those sorts of things. It was pretty tough work, not gonna lie. But it was just, you can understand why Australia was so keen to get out there and bowl today. Absolute
carnage, and you saw kind of both ways of attacking from a batting perspective, both methods not working. I mean, Joe Root, a painful 15-ball duck, barely plays a shot. He's just thinking, get through. Slightly older ball, I'll be able to score then. He kind of plays a half-hearted defence, and he's out again. Since that 100 in Brisbane, it's gone downhill for him in this series. And then Brook, complete opposite approach. They were batting together for a bit, and it was just chalk and cheese. You had when Brook was on strike, you had a deep point and a deep long off, and a fine leg and a deep square leg. And then when Root was coming on strike, it was 3 slips a gully, normal kind of cricket. Brook, apart from the absolutely wild shot that he's played off Starc first up. After that, I felt like he kind of got his rhythm a bit, and I reckon, honestly, that was probably not a bad way to bat on that pitch. He hit a couple of sixes. He got an enormous one over long off Boland, I think it was, and really hit his straps. He's hit the high score for the day. So who are we to question how he batted? And people will criticise how aggressively he batted today, but at the end of it, he got out playing a defensive shot off Boland. So maybe there was some merit in how he was approaching it.
Yeah, absolutely. Starc and Nisa obviously did well off the top, but then Scott Boland came in front of that home crowd and didn't disappoint. 9 overs on the bounce from him today, 3 for 30, and some really good deliveries, tough to play, including a cracker to get rid of Brook that jagged in a long way. It's probably maybe didn't even bounce as much as Brook was expecting, and normally you would see one of the top batters from the opposition review that decision, even out of a bit of hope. Brook thought, no, that's got to be out, and just walked off.
And he was right. I was thinking, surely, he looked like their most dangerous batter. They were already, that would have been their 4th or 5th wicket down. So surely you just use your 3 reviews because you're going to get the chance to use them. But he knew that that was hitting the stumps halfway up. And if it wasn't for Atkinson again, he whacked 28 of 35 balls. They wouldn't have even got into triple digits. Yeah,
well, it's England's lowest score in Test cricket since they were here last year. That's a stat you uncovered, Lou. 68 they were bowled out for that day when Scott Boland got 6 for 7.
Last Ashes series, yeah.
And today, last Ashes series. And today, 110. A wicket fell today every 22.9 balls, so less than 4 overs. Total carnage across all facets today. Australia batting again.
And you think back to when the last time England fans would have been able to come to this to the MCG en masse, 2017-18, I reckon a wicket every 22.9 overs. That would have been 23.3 overs, 22.9 balls goes into 23.3.
Gotcha.
Yeah, terrible overs maths there. It was just the flattest wicket ever, right? So it's a complete turnaround for the MCG. I know which one I'd prefer to watch, but I can also see the flip side. If you've got tickets to day 3 and 4, you'd be very nervous.
Just before we wrap up, Jai Richardson made his return to Test cricket. In fact, it's his first Test match in 1,467 days. Louis, 4 years, almost to the day, but since that Adelaide Test he played against England. What did you make of his return? And are you hopeful we might get to see a bit more of him tomorrow with the ball?
That's right, yeah. Well, only 4 overs. So you can see what they've risked him here. They might have gone, this wicket is really green. We don't think it's going to go the journey. We're going to get more use out of an impact kind of bowler like him as opposed to Todd Murphy. So it's hard to argue with that decision either way. And the other side, I can't remember if we brought it up on this podcast, but his throwing remains an issue. He still just can't throw properly after 3 shoulder surgeries. So I know it's something he's worked hard on to try and get back that shoulder strength, but while bowling's fine, his shoulder's really no good in the field. So they've obviously made a decision that they can kind of carry him in the field. And they're just going to, if he gets a couple of wickets, what could be a 2.5 day test, that'll probably justify the selection. So early signs were good. Pace was a little slow to kind of get up to start, but looked like he was touching that 140 mark by the end of a 4 over spell. So can't really judge him just yet.
No, and I know it's probably hard to judge as well on such a short innings. England only batted for 29 overs, but can't remember him fielding a ball either. So maybe that's the way to go. Just bowl out the opposition quickly, and you don't have to worry about him fielding.
I can't remember anyone fielding a ball today, to be honest.
That'll do us from day 1 here at the MCG. You can catch us again after day 2 when the match might be over, or it may not. Find out tomorrow.